them available to you on my YouTube channel. All right. So here we go. So yeah, last time we have seen various different aspects. The comparison of technologies, specifically the criteria being area, speed, power, and cost. And then we said something about so many different parameters here, and summarized that if you compare it with FPGA gate cell, so this is specifically for the ASICs. Okay. Today we will start with a completely different concept, and that is how do you represent the system? If I want to design a system, how do I first of all understand it, visualize it? Okay. So system is described in different ways and is examined from different perspectives. So there are different angles at which you can study the project and then start with the design or development. We call these perspectives as representations or simply views. Okay, there are three views. One is called as a behavioral view, second one is called as a structural view, and the third one is called as a physical view. What is a behavioral view? It is nothing to do with the behavioral type of modeling that we will be doing with in VHDL. Please don't get confused. This is just a systemic representation and how it is being perceived by different, let us say, units or sections of a company. A behavioral view describes the functionality, that is the behavior of a system. So necessarily it will treat it as the system as a black box, and no much information is there on the internal implementation. So I just consider it as a black box if I'm having this kind of view. This particular view focuses on the relationship or correlation between the input and the output signals, and defining the output response when a particular set of input values is supplied. Okay, the description is seldom unique, so we can have different types of different answers to this problem or question. So it is never unique. Okay, normally there are a wide variety of ways to specify the same input and output characteristics. You see, I can implement, say for example, a simple multiplexer in various different ways. Okay, or logic gates. As a matter of fact, if I want to design a system to implement Boolean logic in the equation, in that case I can use basic gates, I can use AND OR gates, AND OR planes, or I can even use multiplexers for doing that. Okay, so internal we are not at all looking at from this particular perspective. Okay, then we have the structural view. It describes the internal implementation, that is the structure of a system. The description is done explicitly, and there we specify what components are used and how these components are interconnected. It is more or less the schematic diagram or circuit diagram, as you can say in simple plain words. In computer software, we use the term net to represent a set of wires that are connected to the same node. So if you have ever used PCB design software, the circuit is first of all implemented, or let us say interpreted, in terms of the nets. Okay, that net list of that such a nets is called as the net list, which is actually a collection of all the nets. Nets is nothing but the connection with different components to a particular node. Okay, it represents the schematic in a simple textual format. Okay, so in case of when we look at it from, if you are using an EDA tool, what is EDA, by the way? What do you mean by EDA? Anyone having any idea what is an EDA tool? Guys?
Electronic design.
Electronic design automation.
Yes, that's correct. Electronic design automation tool. So many of the tools are there in the market, and because of these tools, the repetitive behavior, the way in which the circuit is designed, the time has reduced drastically because of these tools. Okay, a simple example of EDA tool is Multisim itself. You must have used Multisim in your undergraduate courses. So Multisim is an EDA tool where you can go for the circuit capture, then you can go for simulation, and then ultimately there is one additional tool along with Multisim that is called as a Ulti board, where you can import the netlist that is generated and you can have you can design your own PCB. Altium Designer is one such tool. So there are various different tools. Basically, there are three components to every such tool. Okay, they are common. One is the schematic capture. So that is where it is a place where the designer would actually draw the circuit diagram using different tools and drawing tools which are made available. Okay. After that, there is a compilation stage where this schematic circuit diagram or schematic circuit is converted in the form that computer understands it. That is in the form of the netlists. Okay, and these netlists are used for various different spice tools, for simulation purpose, or maybe for a PCB also. It is used. Okay, so that is how the EDA tools work. So when we talk from the point of view of an EDA tool, the structural view is nothing but the netlist. Then you have the physical view. A physical view will describe the characteristics, the physical characteristics of the system, and adds additional information to the structural view. So this is a little bit more enhanced view, let us say. It specifies the physical sizes of the components, the physical locations of the components on the board or the silicon wafer, and the physical path of each connection line. So as example, I have already said we have a PCB, that is a printed circuit board layout of a system. So the circuit diagram and the PCB looks very different, because you have to know the physical sizes and the shapes of the components. Okay, so this physical view is that kind of view. Then we have different levels of abstraction. Basically, tell me what do you mean by abstraction? What do you mean by the English meaning of what is abstraction?
To take out something, that to extract something.
No, abstraction is hiding some details. Okay, so we hide the details. We don't go to the minute details of each and every part. We just have an overview. So there are different levels at which you can have abstraction. Okay, so a very simple.
Hello.
Okay, so naturally you can start describing the specifications of the car. Again, up to some extent, I can say that okay, the level of abstraction is different, because now I'm going into the details of the specifications of the car. Okay, again, further down, if I go the level of abstraction, I will say, okay, this is the engine, this is the type of the engine, it is using this particular technology, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the levels of abstractions is nothing, the levels of abstraction mean nothing but at various different levels, the description of the system is in a particular way. So the topmost level of abstraction will be hiding everything, only just the overview. Okay, so the higher you go in the level of abstraction, the details are left out. Okay, and you can see here that as chip density reaches hundreds of millions of transistors, it is impossible for a human being or even a computer to process the amount of data directly. Why the levels of abstractions are there? Because of this. A key method to manage this complexity is to introduce several levels of abstraction. So what is an abstraction from our point of view? An abstraction is a simplified model of the system showing only the selected features and ignoring the associated details. Okay, that is what you mean by abstraction in our context. The purpose of abstraction is to reduce the amount of data. So I just don't want to burden you with so much detail. So I just have an abstract idea in front of you, and then you can fill in the blanks later on and go into the details. Okay. So the purpose of abstraction is to reduce the amount of data to a manageable level so that only the critical information is presented. As I said, when I said it is a car, you mean what is a car? Okay. So I've pinpointed what is the functionality of that thing. What exactly am I talking about? That is clear. Okay. High level of abstraction is focused and contains only the most vital data, that it is a car. Okay. On the other hand, low level abstraction is more detailed and takes account of previously ignored information. Low level abstraction model is more accurate and is closer to the real circuit. Obviously, if I'm going on adding more and more details, the description will be more and more accurate. Start with high level abstraction and concentrate on the most vital characteristics. This is the very first starting point of any design, as a matter of fact. 4 levels of abstractions are there. Just to give you another simple example, say I give you a problem saying that, okay, why don't you design a linear power supply, okay, with only the specifications. I'll be giving as input as 230 volts RMS, single phase. Output will be, let us say, 5 volt, 2 amperes, and the allowable ripple is, let us say, 50 millivolts peak to peak. Okay, so those are the. So you start with just drawing a box saying that, okay, this is the linear power supply. Then once again you go into that particular circuit, that particular block diagram, you can identify sub blocks, like there will be a rectifier, a transformer, a rectifier, then there will be a regulator, and so on and so forth. All right. So what we are doing is we are actually going down the level of abstraction, and the lowest level will be the exact circuit diagram. All the components will be specified, and then you have the design. Okay. So we have 4 levels of abstraction in this particular our particular context, that is your VLSI. One is the transistor level, second is the gate level, third is the resistor transfer level, and fourth one is the processor level. Division of these levels is primarily on the size of the basic building blocks, which are the transistors. Then transistors make logic gates makes function modules, and so on and so forth. Main characteristics: basic building blocks, signal representation, time representation, behavioral representation, and physical representation. So this is a Y chart. You can see here that at the center you have, you have the system, and the system is looked at from different perspectives. First of all, as we discussed, we have the behavioral view, we have the structure view, and we have the physical view. Okay, again, in a particular view, there are different levels of abstraction. Okay, so the lowest level of abstraction is transistor layout. Again, one step ahead of that, one step above that will be cell layout. Then you have the module floor plan, IP floor plan, all this from one particular perspective, that is a physical views. If you look at the structure view, this is more, it will clarify it in more details. Look at the lowest level of abstraction, it is the transistor, resistors, and the capacitors. These are the basic circuit components. Then going one step ahead, one step up in the level of abstraction, all these transistors, resistors, capacitors together make gates and flip-flops. So gate and flip-flop is one level. So many gates and flip-flops together make adder, register, multiplexer, etc. And then finally you have the processor, IO interface, and all those things. So this is from the point of view of developing a processor itself. Okay, so this is how, again, from behavioral point of view, you have differential equations defining the lowest level of the circuit. Then you have the Boolean equations, then you have the register transfer operations, and then finally the algorithms. So this chart completely visualizes the various the topic that we are discussing. Is that clear to all of you? Any doubts, any questions here?
No, sir.
All right. So what is transistor level abstraction? It is the lowest level of abstraction. Basic building blocks naturally are transistors, resistors, and capacitors. In fact, now since the advent of CMOS and the MOS technology, everything, including the resistors and capacitors, are attempted to be manufactured using MOS devices themselves. Okay, only silicon over there, so that it reduces the number of masks. The behavioral description is usually done by a set of differential equations or even by some type of current voltage diagram. We already know this. You have already studied that in the electronic devices and circuits. So that was the level of abstraction, transistor level of abstraction. Analog system simulation software such as SPICE can be used to obtain the desired input-output characteristics. So if I want you to design a simple gate using transistors, okay, in that case, that will be the lowest level of abstraction. At the transistor level, a digital circuit is treated as an analog system. I hope all of you know that when I model the MOS devices, you must have used some CMOS backend tool like Microwind. or maybe somebody has used Tanner, or somebody has used Cadence. What have you used for CMOS layout design?
Cadence I have.
Cadence you have used.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In that you have different circuit capture tools and Virtuoso and NCSIM and all that, no?
Yes. We have
Okay.
practiced.
Yeah. So that NCSIM is basically the simulation tool over there. In case of Microwind, it is inbuilt. Microwind is the cheapest and the least powerful kind of software. Okay. So there you can use the simulation softwares. And naturally, the transistor is treated as an analog device. There it is not treated as a digital device altogether. The physical description of transistor level comprises the detailed layout of the components and their interconnections. You must have already used in Microwind and all that. You must have used the layout tool where you are supposed to draw the layout of a transistor, that is an NMOS and a PMOS together make an inverting gate. That was the very first thing that you did probably. And you are supposed to define the sizes also of the transistors. So that is the physical description. It will essentially it defines the masks of various layers. So that is basically used for the preparation of the layers or the masks of the various layers. Gate level abstraction. The next level is gate level. Typical building blocks include simple logic gates such as AND, OR, XOR, NAND, 1-bit 2-to-1 multiplexer, and so on and so forth. Okay, latch, flip flop, and all those things. Okay. So instead of continuous values, we treat here that in terms of the binary values. Okay. Now at this point of time, I want to tell all of you: has any one of you in the laboratory seen a zero, a binary 0, or a binary 1? Answer this question, please.
No, sir.
Yes or no? Have you seen?
No, sir.
You will never see a 0 or a 1. On the other hand, what you
Yes.
see is a voltage level.
The voltage levels.
Will be treated as 0 or low. Okay, it is for our convenience. But practically, all values that you're going to get are analog values. Remember that. So I can say that digital electronics is a subset of analog electronics. Understood that? So in order to simplify things, we use the logic representation as 1 or 0. And that actually simplifies a lot of things. And since they're binary values, we have to use Boolean equations for that. Timing information is also simplified at this level. A single discrete number known as the propagation delay is defined as the time interval for a system to obtain a stable output response. Is used to specify the timing of a gate. This description is the placement of the gates and the routing of the interconnection wires. So gate level abstraction encompasses all these things. So instead of, as I said, instead of using physical area, we express the size or the complexity of the circuit in terms of the number of equivalent NAND gates in that particular device technology. This is one more thing that you will understand, that when most of the CPLDs and the FPGAs, they are talked of in terms of, as far as FPGAs are concerned, they are talked of in terms of number of thousands of gates. You must have had this particular question in your mind. Why is it talked of in terms of gates? So how will you describe the functionality? So a very simple way of describing the functionality is the number of gates. If I say one particular FPGA has a capacity of 50,000 gates, it gives me an idea as to what kind of functionality I can do with it. Okay, roughly, of course, it's not necessary that it will exactly tell you, but you can have enough idea as to what kind of functionality. This actually helps in selecting the device. Okay, if you are looking at a very complex kind of a digital circuitry, then you would go for a higher gate count device. Okay, then you have something called as register transfer level or RT level abstraction. At the register transfer level, the basic building blocks are modules constructed from simple gates. They include functional units such as adders, comparators, storage components such as registers, data routing components such as multiplexers. Actually speaking, it is the module level abstraction. RT describes a design methodology in which the system operation is specified by how the design is manipulated, data is manipulated and transferred between the storage gates. Okay, this term is actually borrowed here from some other thing. But remember one thing, that it is only an abstraction level. This RTL is used in two contexts, so it is easy for you to get confused. We use the term RT level for module level abstraction and RT methodology for specific design methodology. So in your syllabus, it is somewhere mentioned RT methodology. So that terminology is different, slightly different. The data representation at RT level becomes more abstract. As you can see, if you compare with the previous two levels, it is more abstract. Signals are frequently grouped together and interpreted as a special kind of data type, such as unsigned integer or the system state. When we are talking about the finite state machines, in that case, it is a state. This kind of description uses general expressions to specify functional operation and data routing. Data routing is more important here and uses an extended FSM to describe the system using RT methodology. Major feature is to use of a common clock signal in the storage components. Now, physical layout at this level is also called as the floor plan. Okay, so this is, please remember the keyword. It is helpful for us to find the slowest path between the storage components and to determine the clock period. Okay, so interestingly, okay, tell me, what is the simplest memory storage device?
A latch.
Flip-flop. Okay, a flip-flop, and so many flip-flops together make what? If I combine flip-flops together, what do I get? A register. Okay, please note the spelling register. It is not the resistor as in resistance. It is a different entity altogether called as a register, and it is nothing but composed of the flip-flops. Clear? Yes, guys?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All of you? Okay, then tell me, what is the difference between latch and flip-flop? What is the difference between latch and flip-flop? Tell me. Guys?
Latch doesn't have a clock.
Okay, agreed. But still there is something remaining, which is the fundamental characteristic. Yes? You don't know, many of you? Okay, latch is a level triggered device, whereas flip-flop is an edge triggered device. Are you getting this? This is the main difference.
Yes, sir.
Okay. More about this later. Okay, then we go for processor level abstraction. It is the highest level of abstraction. Basic building blocks at this level are known as IPs. That is the intellectual properties. Includes processors, memory modules, bus interfaces, and so on. Behavioral description is more like a program coded in a conventional programming language, including computation steps and communication processes. Signals are grouped and interpreted as various data types again at this level. Time measurement is expressed in terms of a computation step. which is composed of a set of operations. Okay, and we have these defined between two successive synchronization points. It is a collection of computations may run actually concurrently. So collection of computations may run concurrently in parallel hardware and will exchange data through a predefined communication or bus protocol. Physical layout of the processor level system is also known as the floor plan. So floor plan is used loosely in two different places. That is what you have to remember. The components used in floor plan are much larger than those of an RT level. That is the major difference. So in order to summarize, we have typical blocks at the transistor level, transistor resistor. Signal representation is voltage, time representation continuous. Behavior description is in differential equation. Physical description is the transistor layout itself. For gate level, you have AND building typical blocks are AND or XOR and flip-flop, and the signal is represented as a binary 0 or 1. Then time representation is in terms of propagation delay. Behavioral description is Boolean equation, and the physical description is in terms of the cell layout. RT level, we have adder, multiplexer, resistor. Signal representation as integer, that is a data type or system state. Time representation is a clock tick event. Behavioral description is extended FSM. Physical description is floor plan, RT level floor plan. Processor, we have processor and memory. Abstract data type as the signal representation, time representation as event or sequence. Behavioral description in algorithm in C, for example. Behavior physical, it is IP level floor plan. So this is the summary of those levels that we have seen. All right, now let me switch to another presentation. Meanwhile, if you have got any doubts, any questions, feel free to ask.
Sir, are you sharing slides right now?
Yes, I'll be.
No. Are you sharing the screen? Because it's not visible.
Right now, I'm not sharing because I'm switching to a different PowerPoint presentation. I guess this one. Yeah. Now is it visible?
Yes.
So introduction to VHDL.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, let us start with a very simple way and try to find out how the design is executed in a programmable logic device. Okay, so that is where first of all you should understand, rather than going from, so many of the parts from I think unit number 5 are covered on the way. Okay, so you will not have specific EDA description because all those things we already covered in the subsequent units itself or the previous units itself. Okay, so a decision has to be arrived at regarding the selection of type of PLD. You already know what is PLD, programmable logic device, and we have two options here, CPLD and the FPGA. The selected device always is called as a target device. So if you want to talk in terms of the terminology that is used is target device. What are the steps involved? So whenever we start with a design, we start with specifications. Always, whenever you start with a design, you have to start with specifications. Okay. As I said, okay, we'll talk about this in more details. Then we have the design entry, compilation, functional simulation / verification, synthesis, post-synthesis simulation, implementation, timing simulation, and finally the hardware implementation. So this figure is descriptive of so many different steps therein. I think you are in a position to see this flow chart. Are you able to see this flow chart?
Yes.
So whenever we start with HDL based data flow, we are going to see what is HDL and all that. HDL simply stands for hardware description language. All right. And whenever you are using HDL for designing a system, designing a circuit, digital circuit, you'll always start with specifications, create a digital design. There are three ways in which you can create the digital design. One using VHDL or Verilog code. Otherwise, you can go for schematic entry, just like you draw a circuit diagram. And the third is a state diagram. Okay, specifically used for FSM designs. Second step is compilation. Third step is functional simulation. So here at this stage, what you will do is you will find out what are the various, whether the system is behaving as per your expectations. Of course, only the functionality. Then you specify the target device and then go for what is called as a synthesis. Please remember, we are going to talk in more details as far as synthesis is concerned. All right. For the timing, just imagine that your design is interpreted in the terms of the building blocks which are available in the target device, or mapping of the functionality shown by or desired by you in terms of the basic building blocks which are available in the target device. I'm stressing more on the target device. Why? Because at this stage, before you synthesize, you have to specify the target device. Otherwise, the synthesizer will not know what is available in the target device. So how will it map? So before going for synthesis, you have to select the target device. Before that, no problem with that. Okay. Then after synthesis, you have to go for again simulation, where you have to find out whether the synthesizer has correctly interpreted your design or not. So you have what is called as a post-synthesis simulation. And then you have implementation, place and route. Again, this implementation and place and route is not done with the physical device, but a map of physical device in the computer memory. Okay. And then again, you have to go for in fact, this is the time where you have to go for what is called as a timing specification or timing simulation. Okay. Whether the timings are proper or not, propagation delays and so on and so on, the clock delays, etc. Okay. And finally, once you're satisfied with that, you have to go for what is called as a hardware implementation. Now, the blocks which are shown over here on your right hand side are the various different softwares which take care of these particular steps. For example, data entry, the schematic entry or VHDL code and compilation is all done by various different tools like ActiveHDL is one more tool. In fact, ActiveHDL is what I prefer because the editor is much more better as compared to Xilinx. Of course, you can use Xilinx also. You have to use Xilinx in your practical session, so be conversant with Xilinx itself. Then there are some other tools also. Okay, so functional simulation is done by ActiveHDL, and there is one more interesting third-party tool called as ModelSim. Okay, this ModelSim helps you simulate your circuit. Then post-synthesis simulation is also possible. Synthesis is done by specific softwares. There are specialized softwares like Synthesis Pro. Simplify Pro is one software which actually synthesizes. So there are so many different optimization algorithms. Ultimately, you don't want your circuit to be blown out of proportion, and simply it's possible that it may not fit in the target device itself. So a lot of optimization has to be done, and in order to do that, there are some professional tools available. Okay, one of these professional tools is the Simplify and Simplify Pro. Simplify Pro is a more advanced tool. Okay, of course, Xilinx also has got their own synthesizer called as XST, Xilinx Synthesis Tool. Okay, then you go for post synthesis simulation, again using ActiveHDL and ModelSim. Now, when the slides were made, Xilinx didn't have their very strong support for simulation, but now Xilinx has improved upon, and they can also have the native simulator. Okay, you don't have to leave the workplace. Then you have some implementation tools which of course are built into Xilinx. So Xilinx has now come out with everything that is there on the right hand side. Okay, right up to the hardware implementation, that is flashing the device with your design. Okay, this is a more detailed version. Just have a look at it. Ambient specifications. Please remember that specifications are roughly divided into input specifications, output specifications, and ambient. Ambient means at what temperature is it going to work, in what kind of humid environment it is going to work, and so on and so forth. Okay. Based on those things, target device may be finalized. Okay. Choice of target device as CPLD or FPGA depends on various factors. Like there are some pros and cons for FPGA and CPLDs. We are going to see these things at the last one of the units where we discuss the actual hardware, the internal diagram of the hardware. Okay. Specific type of device may be selected by comparing specifications provided by the manufacturer in the datasheet and the actual design requirements. This lower pie chart shows the distribution, the market share by various different companies. Of course, this is a very, very old data. Now, things have changed a lot. I encourage you to look at the recent data on your own. Then you have the design entry. This is essentially the design entry point in an EDA tool. It can be done by the following means. What are they? As I said, you can have either the schematic capture, directly draw the circuit diagram on an editor, graphical editor, which is made available, or you can draw the block diagram. Okay, or you can use state diagram, draw the state diagrams, and just enter your design. Or one very elegant way of doing this thing is the HDL code. Write some piece of code which describes your circuit, and that's it. Okay. All right. Block diagram. This is, you must have already studied about this block diagrams. You must have used this schematic capture like in Multisim, etc. You've already drawn the circuit diagram and all that. So it is necessarily that thing. EDA tool associated with task is generally called as schematic capture tool. Now here, what this tool does is it goes for what is called as an electrical rule check. Okay, ERC. Main job of this tool is to check for incorrect electrical connections. So you, of course, you have to, in advance, what you have to do is you have to assign that, okay, this pin number is VCC, okay, or is to be connected to VCC. By mistake, if you connect it to ground, you will flag off an ERC error. Okay, so you have to first of all fill in the ERC matrix, and then correspondingly it will. So these are the rules, and the software will simply check the rules. Okay, for these this tool to be effective, IC pins has to be declared, as I said, as power, ground, input, output, bidirectional, etc. After removing all the errors, ERC errors, what we get is a netlist. I think I've already told you about the netlist. What is a netlist? It's a text file showing the nets, that is a set of components connected together. It is also possible to generate VHDL netlist. VHDL netlist is slightly different, but then using schematic capture, you can do both. This is an example of the schematic capture. Okay, so this is one way in which you can enter your design or start designing. State diagram entry. Many designs are most effectively described as state diagrams in terms of the state diagrams. These are effective for sequential designs. All of you know about finite state machines. So the state machines are obviously described in terms of state diagrams only. The EDA tools actually provide a graphical interface so that the designer can directly make an entry of the state diagram and generate the netlist. This method is preferred since it is fast way of creating the design. This is, say for example, this is how we have to enter the state diagram. This is one example which I have designed. We will see this in more details when we go for FSM. Okay, this is a state diagram for a vending machine. Okay, so we'll see in more details. But this is just a sample of how the state diagram entry is done. Then you have the HDL code. This is basically the focus of our entire syllabus. Okay, that it is HDL based entry is expected. So designer can enter his or her design using hardware description language. Okay. Now once we say there are various different languages, the prominent ones are VHDL and Verilog. By the way, what is the full form of VHDL? Anyone?
VHSIC hardware description language.
Sorry?
VHSIC hardware description language.
What is that VHSIC?
That's a very high scale integrated.
Very high?
Scale.
High scale, no. It's very high speed.
High speed, huh? Okay, sorry.
Okay. Integrated circuit hardware description language. We'll talk about this in more details. Anyways, I just wanted to make sure you recollect some things or not. But on an average, VHDL is phasing out, let us say, and Verilog is replacing VHDL like anything. The reason for that is VHDL is a proprietary language, whereas Verilog is open source. There is another language which has made an impact, which is called as a System C. Now, the System C is similar to C language, so it is more user-friendly and comfortable to the designers familiar with C. Now, using this code entry method, which is very preferred because there are some certain advantages. What are the advantages? Design flexibility is there. Code reuse. You can reuse the code. You can easily modify the code. And there is a tighter control over the resources. This is the most important feature. Okay. Remember that we have a very limited real estate. Specifically, when we talk about a target device, I don't have an infinite amount of, or let us say even a very, very large amount of hardware at my disposal or the resources at my disposal. So these resources have to be used very carefully and in an optimized manner. So that for that I require very tight control over the resources. That is possible with the HDL. Again, when you compile HDL, a netlist is created. This is just the snapshot of VHDL design. Now, many times people will say, write the code in VHDL. Okay. Well, technically it is wrong. VHDL is not a code per se. Okay. It is hardware description. So whenever you write something like this, you are actually designing some digital circuit. So we have to call it as VHDL design and not VHDL code. Okay. We'll see about this in more details. Then for compilation at this stage, the design is set to be at the RTL level. All the data manipulation is done here at the register of the host CPU. Or we can say that the design is not in the terms of logical gates, but internal to the environment. After successful compilation of the design, using any one of the three methods, a netlist is generated, which is called as a gate level netlist. The design is now translated in terms of logic gates and modular entities like multiplexer decoders. Now we have the thus we have the design at the gate level. Then the next step that you are supposed to go for is this functional simulation / verification. Understand the difference between verification and testing. Okay, there are two very different tasks. Verification is the process of determining whether a design meets the specification and performance goals. So it necessarily concerns with the correctness of the initial design as well as the refinement processes. That is the iterative processes that you have done for correcting the functionality. Whereas against that, testing is a process of detecting the physical defects of a die or a package that occur during manufacture. This is a very important difference. Please understand this difference carefully. Okay. So if I design something and put it on, say, PCB, all right. Say I mount all the components on PCB. So from that perspective, how will the verification and the testing look like? First thing that I would do is the testing. Is there any crosstalk in the PCB tag among the PCB tracks? Is there any loading which is happening on the output of a particular port, let us say, for example? So that will be the testing. Okay, is the supply being properly fed to every subunit and so on and so on. Functional test is done by simulating the gate level design using logic simulators that may be available as a built-in feature. Okay, there are again two ways of going for functional simulation. One is the interactive mode and the other is the batch mode. As can be very easily understood by these words themselves, that interactive is that the designer can change the input signals and observe the corresponding output behavior. And of course, this is a very cumbersome cumbersome way of simulation, where you are at every step you are supposed to change the signals and see the behavior. Okay, and as the number of signals go on increasing, this becomes almost impossible. So we have another mode called as a batch mode, and it uses the concept of what is called as a test bench. Now a test bench is also a piece of PHDL code. More about this in more details later on. It generates the test patterns and checks the validity of the output. Now this is the preferred mode for larger designs, batch mode. Okay? If any undesirable behavior is observed, the designer can correct the flaw by going back to the design entry level. Here it is important to note that none of the timing aspects have been considered. So functional verification is not at all considering the timing. We are just interested in the functionality. Okay. Synthesis, as I said, more has to be talked about this. So synthesis means to properly put together. That is the correct definition of the word synthesis itself. Okay. So putting what together? So that is the reason why we require the resources to be known in advance. But where do we get the resources? Unless and until we select the target device, it is not possible for us to get the or understand the resources. Okay. So synthesis will optimally map the design functionality which is at the gate level into the actual devices available with the target device. This is the crux of synthesis. If the design uses a 4-input AND gate, for example, but since it is not available with the target device, the synthesis tool can break down this 4-input AND gate and instead use two 2-input AND gates and map correspondingly. So this kind of job is done by the synthesizer. Now synthesizer the cost also increases. So you have to optimize. Synthesis tools have these built-in proprietary algorithms, as I said, for optimization. Then you go for what is called as a post-synthesis simulation. After synthesis, the design needs to be rechecked whether the synthesizer has interpreted your design correctly or not. Okay, so simulation at this level ensures that the mapped design behaves correctly as per the requirement. A possibility may exist wherein the synthesis tool may incorrectly recompose the design while mapping. So this is a very important step. Again, at this stage, timing parameters are not considered. Then you go for implementation. Now this is not really the hardware implementation. Okay, This is the process of physical placing of the design in the target device, but not at the hardware level. Though it is a physical placement, it still takes place in the virtual environment provided by the EDA tool. What we have is a physical map of the target device. What we have is the design that has been synthesized, and these mapping of this particular functionality onto the target device is done in this particular step. There are two phases again: physical synthesis and place and route. Physical synthesis means optimal relocation of the design in the target device. Proprietary software tools are available for this task. As I said, they are very costly. However, this phase is optional. Place and route is a phase where the tool completes the task of virtually placing the components of the design into the target device and then connecting them together to complete the design. Okay, so this is actually an exact copy of the hardware, but it will be in the virtual environment. Now here, what we do is go for what is called as the timing simulation. So one most important change the design undergoes is after the implementation. Remember that earlier we were not concerned with the timing. Why? Because we didn't know how physically the components were placed. What is the length of the interconnection wire? Nothing about that. That is the reason why we ignored the timing aspects. But now, since the placing and routing has been done, now we are in a position to estimate the lengths of the interconnects also. Okay. This factor introduces the delay aspect in the signal propagation. As I said, the length of the connector itself, the conductor itself. Many synchronous circuits will fail if the timing aspects are ignored. Specifically, they will go into what is called as a metastable state. More about this later, even though they appear to be functionally correct. So simulation is necessary again. This kind of simulation provides the designer with a better view of the design functionality. In fact, real-world behavior of the device can be very accurately studied by this kind of simulation with timing aspects. Finally, we go for what is called as a hardware implementation. The final step is to download the functionality onto the actual hardware, that is the target device. The synthesis tool generates the output in terms of a bit stream that is used to configure the target device. Now, since at this point we don't really know what these where this bit stream really goes, let us not go into the details at this point. Later on, once we understand the structure of the CPLD or the FPGA, we will be in a better position to understand this. The vendor specific tools can be used for doing this kind of job. Okay, so any doubts, any questions up to this point? We have covered the design flow. Guys?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Is that okay now?
Yes.
Okay. So as I said, HDL is a hardware description language, is a software coding language used to model, this is important, the intended operation of a piece of hardware. There are two aspects to the description of hardware that your HDL will facilitate. Number one, the true abstract behavior modeling and the hardware structure modeling. What is the abstract behavior modeling? It's a hardware description language. It is in order to facilitate abstract description of hardware behavior for particular use. This behavior is not influenced by structure or design aspects of the hardware which is intended. Okay. Whereas hardware structure modeling is capable of being modeled in a hardware description language irrespective of the design's behavior. So various two different ways or facilities are being provided. One is the abstract behavior modeling and another is hardware structure modeling. So what is VHDL? Coming back to what is VHDL? Digital system design using hardware description language is an established methodology now in EDA. So you can use any one, VHDL, Verilog, System C, etc. etc. VHDL stands for Very High Speed Integrated Circuits Hardware Description Language. Okay. What are the features of VHDL? In fact, this requires a little bit more detailed discussion. Do we have enough time for that? I think we have 7 more minutes. I think we'll start afresh because I want to tell so many things about these things. So features of VHDL is what we will take up in the next lecture. Okay?
Okay, sir.
And also I think it is very difficult for you to keep concentrating for 1 hour straight. So we will stop here discussing about these things. Any doubts, any questions, anything that you would like to ask me?
No, sir.
All right, in that case,